Today, on Be Something Wonderful, manifesting is about embodying these two concepts. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Good morning. Big video today. This comes from a session with a client that I've already spoken with a few times. I might even have talked about him in previous videos. And it's interesting, in the first session, although it was a question about a specific person, he said in his words he was crushing on this girl. Had a crush, right? And she was just not showing any interest, right? But also what came up in further sessions is that he felt stalled and not in his job. He had a job that had to do with sales and selling to accounts. And in both cases, but when he was talking about the SP, he used the words that, I just feel like she's out of my league. And in fact, as we talked about that idea, we also uncovered the belief that he feels these accounts that he's selling to in his job are out of his league, and he felt life was out of his league, right? He looked at life and all of these conditions as obstacles to getting what he wants. Hear this. The Magician's Way points to this as well. This is a big idea I want to uncover today, because what he discovered is that nothing is out of his league. That it was really the concept that he was holding about himself and his relationship to the world that was keeping everything out of his league. Right? So he had a follow-up session to say that he is now dating this girl, and they even had a short discussion that he didn't want to go into the past too much, and about why it took them so long to get together. And she said, it just seemed like you weren't interested, and then I wasn't really sure that I really wanted to be with you. It just felt like you were trying to sell me something. Those were her words. Right? Sell yourself on the idea of being with me. Interesting, because that is his job as well, and that's what he was doing. It was all an obstacle that he felt he had to overcome. He had to convince them that he's the right person. So hear this. This client finally got it, and this is what he shared with me during the session. This is what came out of the session. Two things that changed everything. First thing. And this isn't, I'm paraphrasing here what we talked about, but this is what he was really, the information that he was giving me, or what his aha moment, right? This is the light that turned on for him. I gave up being a perpetual seeker. I stopped looking for it outside myself. I made who I am being all that matters. I made a choice to be willing to believe that every possible thing I could ever want to have or be exists within me, and I exist in it, right? And so I assume and claim it, regardless of what's going on in the middle, because I'm already it. So he's using these terms of the messy middle that we've talked about before. So regardless of what's going on in the middle, regardless of this, the messy middle is thinking that you're out of the league for anything. It's just the messy middle. He's just disregarding it. Right? It's not getting in his way. So that's it. All is yours. This is what Neville Goddard says. All is yours. Do not go seeking for that which you are. Appropriate it, claim it, assume it. This is what he's really doing. Right? This is what he said. This is what he's moving to. This is sort of the first idea that he believes that manifesting is all about. I love it. He established himself as source. He took a stand in consciousness of already having it and being it. When you go for things in life, nothing's going to change unless the underlying structure changes. This is the Magician's Way. So although he had some success, he would have some success on manifesting, quote, manifesting things in life, he didn't change the underlying structure that he believed most things, though, were out of his league. So he would get something, he would manifest something. For instance, he had sales that fell through. So he manifested them, or he got the sale, and then it would fall through. He didn't have the underlying structure of consciousness or the concept of himself that nothing's out of his league. Do you hear this? This is big. No matter how much you imagine and affirm, unless the underlying consciousness is changed, any gains will be fleeting and temporary, surface changes, and instead change the structure of the flow. So even with this girl that he was crushing on, there was a few instances when he would meet her out with other friends. And there was even a conversation, and it seemed like things were happening, but then it would just fall through. He didn't have the underlying consciousness set yet. This is big. Like a river that eventually flows in the ocean, right? All rivers, I've used this example before. You can't change the flow of the river by imagining and affirming and believing that it's not changed, believing you're not that person, believing you're not already that. If you want it to flow differently, you have to change the underlying structure of the riverbed. But even bigger than that, choose a new river, or in other words, a concept of yourself, right? Imagine yourself as that new concept. Assume you are it. So it's not even about changing the riverbed. The riverbeds are infinite. In other words, the realities and versions of yourself are infinite. It's about choosing a new one, choosing the version you want to be. It's really about choosing, not changing anything. Everything depends upon your concept of yourself. That which you do not claim is true of yourself cannot be realized by you. Neville got it. Can't change the flow unless you change that concept of yourself, unless you claim that new concept, right? That river is just going to flow in that same direction, and it's always going to feel like you're fighting against the flow, right? You're trying to overcome obstacles in 3D reality or in those conditions. The river's going to feel like it's out of your league. Right? So self-concept, the structure, the state of consciousness, that's where change is made. But you're not even changing that. You're choosing. Because all self-concepts exist. All riverbeds exist. They all flow to the same place. They all return to source. They're all part of source. There's never separation. So it's not even them returning to source. They're all part of source. So it's not about that, just choosing a new one. That's big today. This is really what he got. The structure of consciousness, the underlying concept, for whoever has, to him, more will be given. And he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Matthew 13:12. That's what Scripture's talking about. That underlying state of consciousness, that structure, that concept of you. If you have it, more will be given, and you will have abundance. But if you don't have it, even what you don't have will be taken away. Right? That temporary seal, that conversation with your crush, right? And it's going well, but then all of a sudden it's not going well. That's why, right? Be still and know that you are that which you desire to be. Here's Neville Goddard pointing to Scripture, pointing to one of my favorite verses in Scripture that I talked about in yesterday's video. Be still and know that you're God. Be still and know that you are that which you desire to be. Be still and know that nothing's out of your league. And you will never have to search for it. The searching's over, right? That's what it really means, to prepare your place, from John 14:3, right? I go and prepare a place for you. That's what preparing a place means. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. This is Jesus. Jesus, remember, represents your I am. Where I am, you are, right? You must be there. So that's how you prepare the place. Where in your imagination? Where in your assumption? Where in your claim that you already are it? Right? Not seeking it, not coming from the assumption that you're seeking it or looking for it in the outside world. Not coming from the assumption that it's out of your league, or that the 3D world, the client accounts, or the girl that you have a crush on is out of your league or preventing you from what you want. It's lining up with it, preparing that place. And then you will merge with that state, as shown in Scripture in John 14:3. The second thing that he really got was, okay, Tom, and then I just affirm it over and over again, regardless of the conditions, regardless of what you call, Tom, the messy middle. Sometimes I felt or feel as if an elevated emotion, and sometimes I don't. So in other words, sometimes he's feeling that fulfillment within, sometimes he's not, but it's there anyway. He just assumes it's there. But I persist in my affirmations of my desired end. This is a powerful use of affirmations, right? I resisted nothing. Whatever the conditions, I accepted them as one quantum possibility and moved my attention to my desired end. Really powerful here, right? Really powerful. So let's hit this. Resist not evil. This is what Scripture says. That evil's the messy middle. It's the undesired inner and outer conditions. The undesired conditions of thoughts and feelings about what you believe reality is. But it's not reality. It's just thoughts and feelings about it, those assumptions, and outer conditions, which you're seeing. But all of that's the evil that Scripture talks about. The thoughts, the messy middle. There is a great difference between resisting evil and renouncing it. When you resist evil, you give it your attention. When you continue to make it, and you continue to make it real. When you renounce evil, you take your attention from it and give your attention to what you want. Neville got it. Very powerful. So it's not, when he talks about renouncing, he's just talking about removing your attention from it, not rejecting it, not pushing against it, right? Not believing it's out of your league, not coming up with that. Instead, just moving your attention to what you want. I'm willing to believe and then affirm and believe it in. This is what my clients said, combining both this idea of willing to believe, like I've covered in the prodigal son, where remember when the prodigal son returns, when you turn to God, God turns to you and comes running to you and embraces you. That higher power comes running to you, starts lifting you to everything you want if you're just willing to believe it, right? You're willing to affirm it. You're willing to not get caught up in the messy middle and allow that higher power to do the work. Wow, that's big. I used to think I had to get the imaginal process and affirmations just right, and that I had to go and feel the high emotions all the time. And as you mentioned, that kept me in the swing circle. And there was a bigger discussion when he said this, because he also felt that the conditions had to be just right to get this girl, to date this girl, for him to be with this girl, to date her, to have mutual interest. He thought the conditions had to be just right. He had to say just the right things. It had to be at the right place. It had to be around the right friends. And so this also applies to the imaginal process and affirmations, also with his client accounts. He thought the conditions had to be just right, the right people. He had to make sure that the product was perfect, and none of that's true. You just got to believe in it, believe in yourself, trust your higher power, and everything else will fall into place, right? Now I choose the state in self-concept. I resist nothing and affirm and believe it in. It's just becoming more natural. That's what he said. There's already a subscriber, but clients as well, right? There's absolutely nothing out of your league. Manifesting is about embodying these two concepts. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for commenting on the videos. They're so lovely, the comments. Thank you for just being here every day with me. We have a Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/BeSomethingWonderful. Another powerful success story was just posted to the group. Someone talking about how their life's changed and what they've manifested. And I posted that on the community board as well. You can also join us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, or just go to our website anytime at tomkearin.com or besomethingwonderful.com. With great love, with great light, and infinite gratitude, creators, see you soon.